nothing. It then spread to Skeptic, which used the Daily Kos article as their citation. No other evidence, just the citation to the Daily Kos article. And it then spread to Forbes, and they, of course, used the Daily Kos article as a citation. No other evidence needed. It then spread to Twitchy.com. Once again, Daily Kos as the citation. No other evidence needed. It then spread to Slate. They used a Jezebel article about pickup artists, which has nothing to do with the men's rights movement. It then went on to International Business Times, which cites a source linked to PUA hate, which has nothing to do with the men's rights movement. Once again, no other evidence. Then it shows up in The Guardian. The only citation is from We Hunted the Mammoth, and there is no evidence that Elliot Rodger was in fact linked to the men's rights movement. It then shows up in The Frisky. Once again, just making the assertion that Elliot Rodger was an MRA without any evidence. It then shows up in Policy Mike, which once again cites the Daily Kos, and so-called journalist Elizabeth Plank also exaggerates the claim a little bit. It went from Elliot Rodger being subscribed to numerous PUA or MRA YouTube channels to Elliot Rodger subscribed to many men's rights activist websites, none of which are ever named, of course, because they don't exist, and there is absolutely no evidence. The claim then shows up in the Huffington Post. Once again, no evidence given. The Village Voice is the next one. This time, it once again cites the Daily Kos article. Then there's news.com.au, which cites the Huffington Post article. Then there's Think Progress, which cites Jezebel. Once again, no connection to the men's rights movement. Then we have New York Post, citing the Huffington Post article. Then we have the Boston Globe, citing Think Progress. Then we have independent.org, once again citing the Daily Kos article. And this was just in the first couple of days. Of course, none of these journalists ever checked the facts. They never went to YouTube and spent 5 minutes checking to see if Elliot Rodger was in fact subscribed to any MRA channels. I checked. Let me stress again, he was subscribed to 0. The very claim that started all this was false, and it was just copied and pasted time and again by lazy journalists who were more interested in writing propaganda than actually talking about real issues. And from there it just exploded. So now there's literally hundreds of articles spread across the internet claiming that Elliot Rodger was a influential member of the men's rights movement and routinely took part on websites and forums, and all of it, of course, based on absolutely no evidence whatsoever. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not the slightest bit of evidence anywhere. And you wonder why we dislike feminism. You wonder why we have a problem with feminists. This is conspiracy theory A-grade bullshit here. It's basically the same level as someone like David Icke, for example. Yet from now on, whenever there is an article mentioning men's rights, you can guarantee there will be at least one line, if not a paragraph or two, quoting as fact that Elliot Rodger was a men's rights activist and was influenced by the movement. How can we not be pissed off at feminism? Seriously. If all you do is lie about us and demonize us and make up absolute fucking bullshit about us, associating us falsely with a fucking spree killer, how can we not fucking be pissed off at you? Seriously. What the fuck do you expect?
I would stand corrected. No problem with that.
I would to prove that point, I would direct you towards a video by Bane666.
Yeah, I've heard that Bane guy's pretty cool. Very modest too. You'd never catch him referring to himself as pretty cool in one of his own videos.
He did a series of videos called the let's see, what was the name of it? But anyway, he did a series called the Toxic Feminism something. I forgot the rest of the words, but
what is that series called? Topagander of Proxic Feminism or something like that?
He did a video where he showed how Elliot Rodger was not part of the men's rights movement,
and he just did another one.
Or didn't self-identify as a men's rights activist.
Okay. It looks like we just got a notification. Do you see that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Well, at any rate, I don't want to go around researching this in the middle of a conversation, but I fully admit that I could be completely wrong. At any rate, that's the first thing that comes to mind. And
so the fact that that's the first thing that comes to mind is part of the problem. Well, it's a major part of the problem, because your side of the fence is the one spreading this bullshit, and it is bullshit. And I don't mind. Look, I don't mind fair criticism of the men's rights movement. By all means, give us fair criticism. I think fair criticism of any group, whether it be the men's rights movement, or feminism, or atheism, or Christianity, or Islam, or whatever, I think fair criticism is good because it keeps those within the group honest. It stops them from using fallacies and spreading bullshit and misrepresenting their opponents. A spotlight should be held on all groups, and that includes my own, and that includes me. By all means, feel free to give me fair criticism, feel free to give fair criticism to the men's rights movement. However, creating bullshit is not fair criticism. Spreading lies is not fair criticism. Falsely associating people who have absolutely nothing to do with the men's rights movement with the men's rights movement in an attempt to create propaganda is not fair criticism. It's scumbaggery. You can't get much lower than someone who will try to take advantage of people getting killed and turn it into a propaganda piece for their ideology. Now, I'm not saying that the skeptical feminists have done this, but like many people on their side of the fence, they are partly responsible for propagating it, for spreading it. In fact, my first conversation with the skeptical feminists in the comment section, it was over some links that they left which spread bullshit. And clearly they didn't check those links, clearly they didn't go through them with a fine-tooth comb, which unfortunately we have to do with the present state of online journalism. If you don't do that, if you don't check your sources and just go with what suits your ideology or suits your preconceptions, then you are not being skeptical. And more likely than not, you'll just spread bullshit.
The second thing that comes to mind is my years of interacting with people who identify as men's rights activists, and their only concern seems to be to throw up statistics of instances where men are disadvantaged in order to counteract feminism.
Well, there's a very good reason for that, and it's because feminism insists that men do not have issues, or that men's issues are just not as important. That is the core principle of feminism. Let me ask you this simple question. If feminism cares about everyone's equality, including the equality of men, then where are all the domestic violence shelters for men, which have been opened by feminists? Considering men are domestic violence victims as well, you would think that there would be at least some domestic violence shelters which have been opened by feminists, if they actually cared about male issues. But they look at the world through the lens of the male victimizer and the female victim, which I don't think is particularly healthy towards men or towards women. I don't think seeing a group of people as a victimizer class is particularly healthy for that class, nor do I think seeing another group as nothing but victims is particularly healthy for that group, especially considering that there are victimizers and victims in both groups. And when feminism insists that the only way you can talk about gender issues is through the lens of feminism, then it makes sense that someone like us would stand up to them and say, what about the other side? And have you ever wondered what happens when we try to hold meetings?
Equality means equality for everyone. And in our current focus around equality in Canada, we tend to leave out men. And so CAFE has a focus on including men into the equality rubric. It was started a few years ago in Toronto, and now there's a chapter in Vancouver, and now a brand new one in Ottawa. I went to the opening of the the Centre for Men and Families in Toronto. So Cafe Toronto has put together a office space and a place where men and their families can go for support, for understanding, to talk about their things. They offer various kinds of workshops and support services. So this is a new thing in Canada. We've got lots and lots of services which are focused on women.
How do you sleep at night, man? You fuckers.
Okay, you know, it's the signature of a totalitarian ideology to attempt to quash dissent. So every time you interrupt, you're merely showing your repressive tendencies. You're not showing anything about your virtue. Okay, let's forget it. So you think this is a victory? Yeah, why are you so frightened of hearing an opinion different from your own? You're pathetic.